it's a heaviness, and sometimes you don't know why until you uncover what it is that's making it so heavy.
Welcome.
Back, man.
We back.
Moving around, changing locations.
Changing locations, but keeping the love and the vibe the same.
Vibrations all consistent.
Part 2 for Dada.
Part 2.
Idi Amin in the building.
Young
Young Idi Amin is in the building.
How do you feel after the first taping?
I got a time to reflect on it.
Was it fun though?
It was fun. It was great talking to y'all.
Good.
Yeah.
You really felt that was fun?
I had a good
Is that an adjective you would use?
Yeah. I mean, and I think even like before and after, like they don't see you preparing and then the conversations we have around the conversations we have.
The fuckery
That
happens around. Yeah.
Mainly from him.
Mainly. Man, I accept that.
A little bit, but he's not to be left out of that either.
It's a Dipset and it's a D Block.
D Block.
Yeah.
So what did we do last time? Did we dipset it? We de-set it.
I forget the reference points. Which one's the one you're supposed to do?
We got to do both.
We did both.
We did do both. I felt like I did both. I felt like there was points where I could have been more transparent, and I felt like I was just quoting Brene Brown stuff for a while.
Listen, it was.
Why'd you think you did that?
I'm not used to being on this side of anything.
And when you say this side, what's this?
I write.
Okay.
Right, and when you write, you have time to edit, think about things, and when
you present it how you wanted to present.
You present the way you want to, and on your own terms.
Yep.
This is different.
Yeah.
And thank you for referencing the writing piece, because in part 1, we talked a lot about motherhood, educator, and those kinds of things, and they all are parts of who you are. But what I wanted to spend some time touching on this time is more of the other sides of you that not a lot of people get to see. Primarily, the writing. I've gone to enough of your graduations, and people who have asked for you to write the commencement speech and all of that, and I am just always moved by your use of words and what you can convey through them. So, when did you know you had a skill for writing and that was something you wanted to do?
6th grade.
Nice.
Mrs. Nolan.
Damn, it was that clear.
It was crystal.
Yeah, I had been doing public speaking and poetry contests since 1st grade. Like, I'm going to get the blue ribbon. Like, I knew I could speak, right? Like, that's the cockiness I came with, 2nd grade, 3rd grade. 6th grade, we had a contest. What does freedom of speech mean to you? And
that's a classic.
Right? and the winner was going to go say their written piece on the radio. And I had just transferred to this public school from a private Christian school, and I was lost. And I wanted to not be seen. But I was like, hurry up and finish this, turn it in, we can go home. And Mrs. Nolan came to my desk like the next day, was like, I need to talk to you. And she was like, your piece. And I'm like, and classically, I don't remember anything I've written, and that's still the way it is now. Like, I'll go back and read my pieces and be like, I wrote that? It sounds like me. And it was like, what the freedom of speech means to me is I have the right to, I can still say it now if I wanted to. But she was like, this is beautiful. I want you to go do it on the radio. And the way Mrs. Nolan acknowledged me was also part of it. Whenever I wrote something from then on, and she really, you turn your papers in and the teacher's sitting at the desk reading it, she would look up and she would wink. And that affirmation, oh, I did it again. Like, I've written something that has landed with, it changed everything. Like I was wanting that wink. I was wanting that affirmation. But I realized I could get it. So like I became the 8th grade graduation speaker. To your point, I was the graduation speaker for every graduation I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
And I knew, I would know, like if there's something to write and to speak, I got it. Like, and it was just simple for me. It became something that was not necessarily always easy, but it was simple. And I never had to really work at it. I remember being in 10th grade in my new school again, and teachers like, write about, he picked something, he was like, cows. And so everybody was like, cows chew grass, cow. And I was like, do you eat me? You know, like I just went like all left. And
Do you eat me?
no, me. Like I just became like the cow, like being oppressed and being, you know, violated.
And this was 10th grade.
This was 10th grade. And my teacher was like, this went dark fast.
Right.
But I was like, I don't want to write what's simple. I want to go there. So yeah, I kind of always have had.
As you're talking about your writing, I feel like it's what happens to me at times when I'm trying to create something. I won't necessarily have a thought or idea about something, or if I do, it's like a spark. But if I focus on it, I can actually create this world that I get to live in. The worlds that I create are more like sound, but yours, and I think we talked about this, in pictures, and yours I think is more like with words.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a lover of words.
That's interesting how human beings function like that. Like, there's a part of it that is, I mean, both of them are expressions, but you know, whether you gravitate, and they seem to be a lot of times the same expressions, but some people gravitate towards the written word because of, you know, something they were exposed to early on. Some people gravitate towards, you know, more visual audio because of, you know, because me, I'm like that too. Like, but I always pinpointed to the fact that I always had music playing, even as far as back as I can remember. So I always think and create in sort of these visual audio kind of realms. But, you know, I had to learn through school how to be able to express that through writing, and I kind of approached it the same way. Anytime there was a piece to write, I tried to think of the most unobvious thing to approach to it, and then start from there and come through. But it's interesting how, you know, those expressions sort of.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is, like you said, is nurture. Like where you come up, how you come up, what you're exposed to. And that shapes the part of you that may come easy, or the part that you work towards kind of highlighting.
Now, Miss Nolan.
Mrs. Nolan.
Mrs. Nolan, I'm sorry. Have you ever gone back to try to find her?
I reached out to her like 9th or 10th grade, maybe even right before I graduated, to thank her. Because by that point, I was starting to win like scholarship money for my writing.
Wow.
And she had like 2 or 3 daughters that they were kind of close to me. They were a little bit older in high school. And she just was a nurturer. And she, you know, when becoming an English teacher, that was the English teacher I wanted to be. Like, I cared how my students read and how they wrote, but I cared most that they thought that I saw them. I thought that changed everything. Like, I went on to be a really good writer in high school. Don't really remember those teachers that gave me the good grades. I really remember resonating with her because of how she made me feel as like a human. And that became important in that, like, it matters in the classroom if your teacher likes you.
Yeah.
It really, truly does. And if you feel like they see you, and even if you don't respond in the way that the teacher wants you to, which is my case.
Still?
James Plowright. We had the only school in Kansas City that had an African American history class in high school, bro. And Mr. Plowright was the teacher. And if a man was going, he got to make up the curriculum. So imagine mixing Ivan Van Sertima with Anthony Browder mixed with, you know,
And this is a high school class.
Malcolm X. This is high school. And this dude, And he would sit us in class, and he developed his own curriculum. He would print papers out. He would having us read like the ISIS papers and
Was this a black
and
high?
shit like. Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
sorry.
black meaning hood. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Underperforming school.
Right.
in the-
Exactly.
he was one of the teachers that stood out more to me than anything, and that I didn't necessarily do well in his class but I didn't do well in any class. But once I got my shit together, I always remembered him, and I made sure that I went back to him after I lived here. I put a suit on, and I got real clean, and found out what school he went to or what he was teaching at, and went there, man. And I just told him thank you.
Did he recognize you?
Oh, he remembered, and yeah,
Because you were that dude.
yeah. I mean,
To that point, I went back to my 10th grade teacher to take him, and he didn't recognize me.
Like, who the hell are you?
we look the same.
I was
though.
like, I didn't have the same impact on you that you had. It was like one of those moments. There's made me think of a podcast that just came out called Unsung Heroes, and it's like these 5-minute episodes of people thanking the person that changed their life.
And for all of the teachers that I do know who feel like their work is like in vain or isn't, educational system and the parents and the students is a force, and sometimes you feel like your little part isn't significant.
Yep.
And it's important, I think, to remind educators that it does land even when it doesn't look like it's landing.
Yeah. Even like sometimes sometimes it's just like that school, wherever that school is, whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school, it's a place where you go every day. And those people, sometimes it's because I had a guy who was the janitor, who really, understood, because I was at a time, I moved from around here to go to an all-white school on Capitol Hill. Only black kid in the class, literally.
That's crazy.
And this janitor, and the teacher was black though, Miss Smith, she was super cool. This janitor would see me like alone, like trying to figure, and I'm seeing kids getting dropped off by limousines coming to school. You know what I'm saying? Like car services, bringing them to school, and I'm riding a bus. Like it's a whole different setup. And this guy would connect with me and be like, "You good?" He would just check. It wasn't no like, he didn't have it wasn't no like no movie where he was the magic Negro and he had all this knowledge to him.
He couldn't read your mind?
Exactly. He ain't come give me a magic bean and I planted it and then he was just like, "You good? You all right? How you doing, man? You all right?" And then that was enough to get me through
That was enough.
to the next day. And sometimes it's just those. Sometimes it's like counselors. I mean, it's just always somebody that has that I always think that the universe puts in your space to move you in a direction that you need to go. Even if you ignore it and don't do it, it's there and it plants a seed. And eventually, after all the while and all the other stuff, you come back to it and be like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be going.
But you know what? And movies fuck it up. But that's magic.
Yeah, it is.
It's magic.
It is.
That is magic.
Yep.
The fact that somebody saw to be seen
Yeah,
is a
man.
magical moment.
Yep.
No matter where it's coming from,
Yeah.
man. And to feel like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we, and as we move through a lot of this shit, I be trying to find like the beauty in like the smallest of things because it really does exist everywhere. And we want to wait for it to be, this big shit.
Like in the movies.
Like in the movies.
Yep.
But, life is so,
it's
to
the
me,
ordinary.
life is so
Yeah.
much better
Yeah.
than movies. And like you said,
It's the ordinary things.
Yep.
Yep. That's right. And
So-
you don't recognize it in the moments, but at some point it impacts you. And
Yep.
those ordinary things are huge moments
Yep.
in your existence.
It was the wink for me. I didn't,
Yeah.
she just would be like,
now that was the modern day equivalent of a like.
Yeah.
right? The
A thumbs up.
Mhm.
Right.
But, and it was like, just between.
There's a connection.
It was between
And we
the
don't
two
get
of
that
us.
in our lives.
Nah.
We don't.
And that was something you said in the last one where you were talking about seeing people or speaking to our kids and even being able to, when I opened up the topic and you were saying, no, I just need to digest this. We're not comfortable taking, I can't remember exactly the words you used.
Oh,
but
they're
it was
not
like,
taking
you
it,
know,
taking
it
in
in.
acknowledgement.
somebody seeing you great and acknowledging you, take that in. That's a
'Cause
magical
your
moment.
complaint later is going to be, nobody cares that I do all this stuff. But
Right.
when people are caring, you're not like letting
Right.
it land.
That's very true. That's, as a matter of fact, you almost like balk at it because you're not used to it.
We're taught to. We're
Right.
taught like that. Be humble, be modest, brush it off on someone else. That's all well and fine. We don't do anything alone, but we
Right.
do things.
Yeah.
And when you acknowledge it, you're not just acknowledging your achievement, you're acknowledging all the people that help you get there. So when you take it and soak it in, you're taking all of the people who've had your back, the winks, all of that, and you're acknowledging that they did.
For the sake of.
Exactly.
And when you knock it, you also knocking
Exactly.
all of that shit
Yep.
that helped you get there.
Yep.
So to go back to the writing piece, you said it came easy to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide that you actually wanted to start writing like stories and formulating these characters? Were these things that were popping up in your
Never.
head?
My novel was the first time I wrote characters.
And when was that?
2015 or 16.
And
Before that, I just wrote about whatever I was experiencing. And so the part that it came easy, but then I wanted to work at it. So like my desk had my dictionary with my name emblazoned in gold, and I kept a pocket dictionary. Like I became like a lover of words. And if you were going to read something that I wrote, you were going to be like, damn, like that's what I wanted. I wanted you to read it and be like, a ninth grader wrote
wink.
this, a 12th grader wrote this, yeah, I wanted the wink.
Impact. Yeah.
And so I worked for it. And I think that's part of it too. Like it's like when a parent sees the skill in their child and then you just don't be like, oh, they're great. You go now, like, let's find a coach, let's find a mentor, let's put them. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was able kind of to do with words for myself. And, but the characters, so there's something called NaNoWriMo. It's National Novel Writing Month. And you might remember.
as soon as you said it,
Yeah.
I remember this crazy shit. Let's hear
What's
it.
the acronym again?
NaNoWriMo. It's NaNoWri, like write, MO, National Novel Writing Month. It's in November.
Okay.
And the goal is 50,000 words in 30 days.
Like by one person?
Yeah. So the goal is to write a novel in 30 days. So I initially took this challenge on. And remember, I lost my computer. I got my computer stolen, so I was in the middle of it. I was all excited. I was doing these write nights. And I come out of a turnstile in DC looking for my metro ticket, set my laptop down. I'm going to a writing event, and I walk out, and then I get to the top of Pennsylvania Avenue, and I'm like, something's missing. And I'm like, and it's my laptop. And the only thing I could think of, and I've had this computer for years, is that my story's on there, like 20,000, 30,000 words deep. And I was like, it gutted me. So that might have been 15. And so 16, I was like, I'm gonna do it.
What's the month? What month is it?
November.
Okay.
And I said, I'm gonna write a story. And I'd never ever attempted a novel before, and I'd never ever attempted a story before. Like I wasn't used to writing characters, but I just had this goal. And so I sat down and started writing. And the wow about it was that the story told itself. Like I would be writing this story and be like, I wonder what's gonna happen next. Like I didn't know. And I was surprised by what these characters would do. Excuse me. And at the end, I grieved these characters. Like I felt like they'd been with me. I knew them intimately. I'd watched them go through some things, and I was done. So I got to 60,000 words, and I was finished, and I had to walk away from them. And so it was like sad in a way. I was surprised by the story. I loved the story, but I had never created a universe before that way. And yeah, it was like, I did it. Like I won National Novel Writing Month, and at 3, 4,
You
5.
won?
I mean, you win if you do the 50,000 words.
okay,
Like you
okay,
don't get a prize. You just get to be like,
You get to say you did
you get
it.
to put on Facebook that
marathon.
you're a winner of the national. Yeah.
Like a
So,
okay.
You know, I printed my manuscript out. I have the first one with all these edits, and then I spent 3 years editing it. And I still have done nothing with it, but
What?
I know. We'll get there, all right?
Winter.
You pulling it back?
Yeah. I'm still holding the. That's good.
Michael, welcome to
Hit her elbow.
Anybody else would have found a target already, right? But I'm holding.
But you know, I think we all been there in that way. But sometimes the target is letting it go.
Yeah, and this story.
The target is the universe. Is it being in the universe, not necessarily hitting a bullseye. Yeah. It's just being.
Yeah.
Because that is a point, though. Perfection.
Yeah.
And I feel like you one of them kind of people.
I didn't know I was.
Like,
I'm like learning that now.
Well,
he's a Virgo. It comes innately for him.
Exactly. That's how he recognizes it.
Oh.
I'm
afraid of criticism.
This is all happening right now. New, y'all didn't know this.
Yeah, and
you say it all the time that the only way you know is if you recognize it. Cause I'm
it's a perfection thing, and it's really an excuse. It's an excuse that let me rephrase that. Yeah, it's an excuse that I generate.
No,
and it's a fear.
Oh, absolutely. And this story, what came out was a deeply personal story to the point where like the two people who've read it was like, oh, this is you. And I'm like, it's not me.
How dare you?
I'm not in this story. And they're like, you know.
You want to share that?
So let me ask you this though, before you share it. So just for the internet and the Google machines. So they're in writing, right? As you talk about your writing, as you started to write more like just writing. Right? And as it developed into stories, as it developed into characters, as it developed into novels, story writing, break that down, because a lot of times people write, but there's so many sort of ways people write. You just write.
I just write.
So when did you transition from your writing into an actual novel?
That day that I decided to do now.
So novel being that it's character-based.
Is that what a novel is?
That's what I'm asking.
It's fiction. Yeah.
So a novel is just a body of writing that is fiction.
That is character-based, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be, and it's longer than just a short story or a story.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'd never even written a short story before.
That's character-based. But you've written stories.
I've written about things in the world. I've written stories. I've written about relationships.
Okay.
Right? But all of it was factual. I've always written nonfiction.
Okay.
And the day I decided to do National Novel Writing Month and realized it's a novel, I realized I'm going to have to write fiction. Let's see what happens.
See, that's deep. Okay.
I didn't have a blueprint. I kind of try to remind myself that the greats, those that I admire, didn't Google how to do this.
No.
They just did it.
And they wrote crap. And then they wrote good stuff. And then they wrote crap again.
Yeah.
But they put it out there. It was just what it is.
Like Octavia Butler, you know, I remember they had like this journal of hers, and she was just like, I will go on to be a best-selling writer, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And she just wrote out what she was going to do, and it's beautiful to read. And then you know what she did? She wrote. Like it's the discipline. And you know, and I used to do morning pages from the artist's way. Like you wake up, you write 3 pages before your feet even hit the ground. Like you just.
But what do you do with all that?
Nothing. I have journals upon journals upon journals upon journals. Like, sorry for when I die and people want to go through my stuff, because
I ain't reading that shit.
Right. First of all, getting through my penmanship. But like, if my children want to know their mother, it's documented.
So do you think
6th grade on?
You don't think you do? You think that you don't sort of release it because of what we?
I'm afraid, and I also just because of that. It gives me a great excuse for not knowing how. So if anyone would like to publish my book, you can reach me. No, like I mean, like I've sent it to a couple of folks, and they came back and said we only do this type of novel, or we only publish this. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know where it goes. But I also haven't like taken the time to really like, here's the pitch, here's where it's going to go, and this is how to make it happen. I kind of like, it's there.
We listen, we all got that. Don't. And I never really understood, like, when people say you're afraid of your own success until you're faced with it, until you just like, I'm making excuses about shit that I know I can do really well.
I was clear on the fact that I was afraid to succeed. I was way more comfortable with failing because that was something that was comfortable and expected and almost like the baseline.
Interesting.
Me trying was never because I was afraid to fail, because that's all I ever did for the most part.
But do you think you didn't try, or you were just failing before you even launched?
Yeah,
or do you think that you were trying but knowing that you were gonna fail?
When you play basketball and you shoot the ball and you know you ain't gonna make it, but you shoot the motherfucker anyway. You know there's no confidence in what you're doing. You shoot because somebody told you to shoot, and then you just shoot. And then when it don't hit, you be like, I knew I wasn't going to hit it anyway.
The stakes are low in that. What happens when you feel like the stakes are higher? Now there's environments that I'm in where I don't consider that I'm going to fail. Like, I don't even think about it. Like, when I gave the graduation speech, I stood up there, and I just was like, I'll wait for them to get quiet because I'm about to say something that they want to hear. And I felt that. I wasn't like afraid. I wasn't nervous. I didn't think I was going to mess up. And then with this book, and I think there's something between, like, this book shows up raw and exposed and vulnerable, and me on stage is like a caricature of me. I'm dressed up, I'm dolled up, I've written it out, I know what I'm gonna say.
You prepared
this stage is I'm comfortable in. Yeah, I'm prepared, and so I would be surprised if it went awry there. I'm almost setting myself up for it to go awry here, and I don't know how to handle that.
But what is the stakes, though? What do you mean the stakes are higher?
What if they don't like me? What if I offend someone?
What if you don't get that
We
win?
saw it in the last interview where he asked you the question and I got nervous for you. I didn't want you to have to defend your choices as a parent.
Right.
I could hear the parents that would come to me and go, I want this for my child too, I just don't know. And so I feel like I don't want to make you upset. And that's some old stuff where I don't want people to not like me. I don't want to step on toes. And I'm telling a story in this book that is honest and difficult and will expose a part of me that I've never put on display.
Would you like to share what that is?
Yeah, sure.
So the book is Aphotic Waters. I can't fucking pronounce it right. I remember when she said
I know that ain't it. Whatever it is, I know that ain't it. That ain't the name of that.
What's the name of the book? What's the name of the word?
I've entitled it Aphotic Waters.
Shut up. See, I told you. I know that ain't what it is. Shut your ass up.
It ain't
See, it ain't
sound
gotta
right.
sound right.
Dog.
I know that
I've
ain't
heard a
right.
lot of words.
Listen.
I know that word ain't sound
Fucking
right.
hate.
It sound different when you said it. It sound like a word when you said it. It sound like.
I remember when she wrote it, I was like, what the hell is that? Here you go again writing shit. Because I thought she spelled it wrong. So I'm being like.
He did. He tried to spell check me on it.
Trying to spell
You mean
on her word.
aquatic, motherfucker? She's like, no, aphotic.
What is that?
It's like the deep waters. It's
She couldn't just say that, though.
part of the place, like, think of the bowels of the ocean that you don't have access to. Like, we'll never really know what goes on there.
And that's aphotic? That's what that
Yeah.
word means?
So how did that relate to when you said it was a part of you that you didn't want to, that you had never shared before?
Like, how long have I repressed this? How long have I pushed this down into the bowels of my own life? How long has this been unexposed? How long has no daylight hit? And that's a literal expression of what I've dealt with. So it's based on a girl who is a youth development worker in Washington, D.C., and she runs a youth program, and she's gone to great lengths to kind of make her vision come true for this work that she's doing. And it's told in 4 different ways. It starts off with a flashback to her on the dance floor with a boy that she is over the moon for, and the setup is that something happens on this dance floor that's traumatic, and she's sent running out of the room. It moves forward to her in her studio apartment in DC, getting ready for work, living the life she lives. It's told in real time with a knock at the door from this same boy from college, and he showed up almost 10 years later after what you realize is something that's traumatic that's happened that's not from the dance floor, something bigger than that. And then it's back told from how he ends up at her door. And then it flashes back to her childhood and her college years for how she became who she became.
When you say flashback to him?
Her and her mother, her growing up, her family life. So you get to know, and it's really a young woman dealing with a condition called Trichotillomania. So she pulls her hair out. And I pull my hair out, right? And so the character is not me. Yes, I've worked youth development. Yes, I've lived in Washington, D.C. And I pulled on a lot of the things. Again, 1 month, 50,000 words. We're gonna figure something out, right? I pulled on what I knew. And, but then I created this character who, living with the same type of disorder, it shows up in her life in a myriad of ways and impacts her work, her personal life, her professional life. And it's a love story at heart. It's a love story between her and herself, and her and the people in her life. And I've written pieces about me pulling my hair out. Like I wrote one, it was published on Elephant Journal some years ago. But I can still kind of avoid that conversation. You can know me for years and maybe not notice that I've never, ever, ever wear my hair down without having something on my head. I've been in relationships that have ended and I realized I haven't told them and they never asked, right? So that level of like exposure in this novel, I love the story. I've reread the book a couple times and I really like it. I don't know where it goes in the world. Like I don't know, again, what genre, whatever. But there was something really freeing in watching this character Njasa go through what she's gone through. And it's a condition that's not necessarily curable. So you live with it and she lives with it. And I think there was something liberating in it for me. But it did not liberate me. There was something freeing in writing it, and I saw it, I just don't know that I pursued it.
You saw the opportunity, and...
For example, I showed up on the first day of grad school bald. I get to these points where I'm like, I can't do this no more, I gotta cut my hair off. And grad school, I walked in and they were like, hello, welcome, and you were none the wiser. And I went to class like that for that first year until my hair grew back out, and then I started covering my hair again. So there's like these episodic periods where I feel really confident in just being authentically with this, and then there's times where I'm like, I just don't want to deal with it and I'm going to cover up.
Is there any, I know this about you, right? So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah.
And just creating the space to just even being okay with even talking about it and trusting us, more than anything to even have the conversation. But do you feel, is there any shame that you feel shame? Is there
Sure.
behind it?
Have I said the name of it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And it's you call it trick for short, right?
yeah, Trichotillomania. It's called Trick for short. It's an obsessive body disorder, and it shows up in pulling out your eyelashes or your eyebrows or the hair, or really just hair anywhere. And whenever I tell the story, there's always somebody in the room that goes, "I have that too," or "I didn't know there was a name to that," or no one ever talks about this. I didn't know that I could. The shame is like, it's something that you do to yourself, right? So like, I remember being in high school, and thank God for like Crisscross when they had like those slits in their eyebrows, right? Like in the mid-90s. Because an indicator of stress for me is I would pull my eyebrows out to the point where I'd have like these slits, and I just would walk around like I had done it intentionally. And it wasn't probably till a year later that I realized, like I would look in the mirror and be like, where are my eyebrows? I didn't figure out that I had it till mid-college, where I had like this dime-sized spot in my head that was bald. And I had a really, really short haircut, and I kept feeling like, what? Why don't I have any hair? Ignore it, my curls are long enough. I moved to DC, and after a spell of like just pulling my hair out, I decided to go onto the internet. And that was one of the first things I ever remember researching. And I found this Dr. Neal Barnett. She was an African-American woman studying trichotillomania. And I just read article after article, what she posted about it. And I specifically wanted to know about me because, you know, for Black women, your hair is your crown. You know, like there's, you know, sitting between your mother's legs, getting your hair parted and dug in your forehead and burning your ears. And like there's rituals to this.
Yeah.
For us to end up on the other side of having this confidence around our hair. And so I didn't really have to go through the natural hair thing because I'd always kept my hair natural, but there was nobody talking about pulling out your hair. And so when I found out that there was a name, something lifted. And but then something still was closed. Like now, and there's a name for it, but like when you Google it, none of these people look like me. I went to a conference on it once, and I went into the bathroom and I bawled like a child, like somebody had stole my favorite toy, and I didn't know why I was crying. And I was the only, maybe one other Black person was there. But these women, these girls, these men, they were just free. They were walking around with no hair, and you know, like just like the world was their playground and confident, and I couldn't relate to any of it. So I had my hair braided and up, and I was looking for someone else to have this expression of how it showed up, and it wasn't there. So like the importance of this book to me, what I want to do with this story is have the young people or the women my age or older or whatever who are dealing with it recognize themselves in the story and say, me too.
When did you start pulling your hair out?
I think around 10. I don't remember it being impacted by some incident, but again, my eyebrows in high school were the first indicator, but I think there was a moment when I was a little bit younger that I recall. I don't really know.
Is it stress driven?
It can be. It can be boredom driven. It can be stress driven. It could be I look up and I'm in a zone, and I look on, and my keyboard is littered with my hair and I don't know that I've done it.
So you don't feel it when you're necessarily doing it?
Sometimes it's very ritualistic. It's looking for the perfect hair that has this you'll know it when you feel it. There's a sensation if you pull it out just right and the bulb is still attached, and I'll twirl it. And I mean, there's just such a ritual to it. And I get aggravated if I don't get the right piece the right way, so I do it again, only to say, okay, if I do, I'm gonna stop, but then I don't. I feel like it's like any other behavior where you're overdoing something.
Yeah.
But there's such a ritual to it that if I get in that zone, that headspace, I understand and recognize it. But there's other times where I'm like mad and I'm pulling, and I look up and I'm like, I'm littered with my hair, and I'm like, I didn't see that happening.
I mean, is it related to any other those kinds of
Obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
It's not like the DVM like 6 doesn't classify it as that anymore. I think it used to. Skin picking, nail biting, all of those kind of fall into those repetitive behavior.
Yeah.
And for me, my hair doesn't grow back anymore. So where it started out with that dime size, most people, I think the experience is like they'll pull and then the hair will go back, they'll cover it up to let it grow, but as soon as I pulled it the first time, every time, except for my eyebrows, it never grows back. So everywhere I've pulled over for the past 25 years is now without hair.
How do you feel you're managing it now?
Some years are better than others. Like there's sometimes where there's really long stretches where I'm like, oh, I forgot I had that. until I go in the mirror. But and then there's times where, like, even like last week, I reached out to a friend, like, I'm pulling, and she has it too. And we've done things like, there's these bands for like thumb suckers, like that, like kind of vibrate and you can program it to where your hand, if it goes to your trigger area, it will shake.
Yeah.
We couldn't get the thing programmed, so it's still in this box. But you know, like, there's things that you try to do to compensate. The idea that it'll never stop is there, and I'm okay with that. But there's some days where it's like, I really wish I could wear my hair down. And like, that's a big deal. And then there's some days where I'm like, I have friends that are like, don't cut your hair off, Eshe, your hair's getting long. And I'm like, I know. And they know that I'll get to that point and be like, and then I'll rock a baldy and be good, but no one will know it's not me trying to have a fashion statement.
Right.
Statement.
With your circle of people, is there something that like your friends and family can do to kind of like help or support?
When it was bad, when it was like really bad and it was compounded by like depression, when people would tell me to take my hands out of my head, it would ignite rage. And that was only them trying to help, but I couldn't help it, and so it didn't help. But mostly people don't really know or don't see me. I don't do it in public, obviously. It's not something that anyone will ever be the wiser on. So I would probably have to tell someone, hey, I'm going through this. Can you support me like this? Or like, can I come over and hang out?
So you mentioned depression. Is that something that you that kind of like goes with it?
Yeah, I don't know the correlation, perhaps. That's been like a lifelong journey. So by the last, like, I'm not attached to diagnoses. Like, that's not,
Right.
like, I don't walk around going, I have.
Yeah.
Because I have times where I'm sad and I have times when I'm not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, and the last time I was really, really sad, they said it was major depressive disorder. And when I want to feel sad, I remind myself of that, like, as an excuse. Well, you have. And that's my coping mechanism to
You
kind
got the
of.
name.
Yeah.
You got the title.
Yeah. So I can lean on in that if I feel like leaning on in that. And when I want to be a pity party, I go, well, why don't people remember that I have that, right?
Yeah. I think once you get those labels, it's easy to do that.
Yeah.
As kids do it, they get these labels
And parents are looking for labels.
Yeah.
But what we're really looking for as parents, I think, is answers.
Well, true. But I've also seen sometimes parents want labels so they can have pity party for their children.
Or they can get funding to go
Exactly.
somewhere else, or to get I get it.
Exactly.
It's a very complicated web.
It is. It's
Yeah.
complex. Because they have, some parents have their own things that they're dealing with. They haven't really understood. So, of course, they're going to heap that same thing on to their kids. And so it becomes odd. It's complex, man.
Speaking to parents, Linda's her mom's name. How was that? And I don't even know. That's why I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I don't remember how I told them. I know that they knew I was struggling with something in college. I actually left my freshman year. After the first year at Tuskegee, my freshman year, I went home severely depressed and thought I wasn't going to go back. And I did go back, and I struggled some more. And even my freshman year, I remember calling my mom, like, I have a counselor now, and he's going to let me work with the student orientation, and that saved my life. Like, I can tell the story. I was the first freshman to be a student orientation leader, but the real story is I was seeing him as a therapist, and he thought this would be a good outlet for me. You know, I wasn't specially chosen for this role. He connected that this might be a good place, and he was right. And that trajectory of like working with my peers never ended. Like I've stayed working with that age group, and I've just aged up. But telling my mom that I found somebody to talk to was just like, oh, good, because you sound like you're in need of someone to talk to. So, I mean, I come from a family where, you know, talking about how you feel wasn't on the table almost. Like, I don't remember that as a thing.
Yeah. Like most families.
Most families. Yeah. But I did find out when I was in my junior year of high school, or maybe 10th grade, my cousin committed suicide. And she, I later found out that she had trichotillomania. And I felt like relief, because I had definitely, there had been times where I thought that maybe I shouldn't be here and I could go and nobody would care. And I thought, oh, she obviously acted on that, but she also had this other thing that we had in common, and I felt closer to her somehow. Like, we weren't necessarily very close. I might have been 15, she was 19 in college, or 18, but then I started wondering, like, does this run in our family history? You know, like, there's all kind of questions that come up. I don't know that that was a disclosure that created any more conversation in my family around it, but I was aware at that point that there was something in our family. My grandfather had really severe depression. He had shock therapy after his last brother died. I remember him shutting down, catatonic-like. And then I just remember being in the hospital and him talking about shock therapy. And I remember him on the other side of it. He came out of it, you know? And so there's always been this relationship I've had with Western medicine, like I think most people are, that's complicated. Right? Like, maybe we would have lost my grandfather to that had he not gone through this crazy thing called shock therapy.
So how do you feel like your writing relates to that or is connected to that?
Two ways. My journal obviously takes most of the brunt of whatever I'm dealing with. But then when I was writing these characters, I was pulling from all those places too, right? I don't necessarily, there was a time I wasn't writing anything that was bright and sunny. Everything was like dark and heavy and and I recognized that, but I also felt more comfortable writing there. And I think that I kind of still feel comfortable. The other part of this fiction story is that there is tragedy in it. And I was very comfortable going there.
Do you feel like that it's any level of release or cathartic at all, writing? Even in your journals, you wrote it out?
Yeah, I
so
do.
You're not like carrying it around?
I do. I noticed that the times that I end up like really severely underwater, I haven't been writing at all. And then I have to write my way out. I think that's one of the first things I do when I'm in one of those dark places is I get a new journal.
Do you, in your connection with other people, do you find that that's their outlet as well? I mean, is there a... Yeah,
I think if someone says that they write or they journal, like that, they've often found that as a place of release. I think that's why some of your best writers are some of the darkest, most complicated people, right? Are just dealing with some stuff, and thank gods for the pen. For that outlet. Musicians too, like these artists that deal with, on this plane, this realm, these things, and they find a talent for figuring out how to have other people identify with it and feel not so alone in it, perhaps.
Yeah, because we talked about that a few episodes ago, how there is quote unquote constructive ways dealing with that, those sorts of things, those feelings, and then there's destructive ways to deal with it, where you want to like forget it or cover it up or medicate it, right? But writings, it almost seems like sometimes when you express it in a way, it's different than you trying to medicate it. Like you're trying to dull the pain through, destructive ways or whatever, as opposed to you, sort of or feeling like that you're getting it out is a sort of different exercise, seems like.
I remember being kind of like ghosted by this dude a couple of years ago. And every day that I expected him to call, I went in my journal and wrote, "Dear John."
Nice.
And I went back one day and I was like, I did this for 12 days. And I just wrote to him what I thought that we would talk about if he had called.
Yeah.
Now, I could have gone on and started stalking his social media or blowing up his phone so I think it was like a healthy way for me to deal with it. And then by day 12, I was just like done.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I had that foresight to do something that served me and then didn't do a disservice to him.
Right. Or disservice to you.
Or disservice to me. Yeah.
When you talked about the contrast between your like public speaking confidence and how you write in that arena and the Aphotic Waters piece and like what your you quote unquote parts are and your discomfort with sharing that. Both of those people are you.
Absolutely.
And that super confident person is the one that's also writing Aphotic Waters, who's putting all of that energy and focus into it.
And some days I remember that. Like, I remember the first day I gave it to somebody to read, and I was like, you got to read this joint. Like, this is it. And then as I went back and read it over, I was like, don't show that to anybody. Just pretend like I never sent it to you. And they were like, are you okay? I was like, you probably shouldn't even read. Like, I just like flipped it on myself based on how I was feeling that day or.
Did you realize when you were writing it that it was like you were more connected to it than you initially thought? Or did you like read it back and was like, uh-oh?
I probably cried 25 days out of those 30 days in that month. Every time a character endured something, I had to go through it.
But did you recognize it that you were going through it again?
Yeah, it felt, even the things that I was making up, like these weren't true. Some parts were tangential to my real life, but most of it I was just making up, but I knew that feeling. I could empathize with what was happening, and I would bawl. I would be there were surprises happening as I typed them. Like I would write something and realize, oh my gosh, that's why she did what she did. And it would and I would be gutted by it. But I'm making this up, but I'm surprised by what's happening here. So I think there was just things I was pulling out in the aphotic places I exist in.
That word again.
And that's how that title came. I was just like, there's stuff here I didn't know I had to unearth.
Yeah. And that's wild. It's a heaviness, and sometimes you don't know why until you uncover what it is that's making it so heavy. And sometimes it's not really a matter of digging deep. This is a matter of the right situation and the right thing happening, and then it just pops up.
And sometimes it's a matter of just sitting still and getting rid of the noise of everything else that's happening.
That is right.
That's why I think meditation is important. I mean, it's not like it doesn't have to be a big production, but the goal may be of like sitting still for 20 minutes to give your brain 2 minutes of free space.
Yeah.
So that things can rise up to the surface, so that answers can come that you've asked questions of.
Yep. And I remember like going through shit, and as soon as I feel it, like that tingle of it coming up, I immediately go to the most destructive shit that I can do. Like,
Make it go away.
I just want to medicate. I just want to, you
Make
know
it
what I'm
go
saying?
away.
Whatever I needed to do to make it like, and I felt shitty about the destructive behavior, but I did it so I can feel shitty about that and not feel that thing that's bubbling up until I said, I'm going to sit still. I'm tired of not, and let it, and the, as it comes up, the pain and the shit that comes up, there's an answer in that. There's the
So
the
how do
solution
you
is in
know?
it.
How do you know when you need to let it come? Like,
I don't fucking know, man.
and that's what I've grappled with my whole life.
Yeah, I still, like, some things, I sort of, at some point, like I said, I just got tired of this destructive shit that I was doing and the fucking shit around me that was collapsing because of that behavior. You know what I'm saying? And I had to be like, let me just, and for me, there was some points where other shit shook me so much that I had to sit still for a minute. Like, I couldn't do anything but sit still.
And that's winter, right? Where like you've been doing so much, and then winter goes,
Yeah,
I'm gonna break
sit
your
ass
leg
down.
to sit you down.
Sit your ass down. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, and then you start to feel it, and then you have to go through it. And then, even then, it's almost like it goes through, right? And you feel this wave of sadness and emotion and guilt and all the shit that comes through. And then there is like a storm. And then there's a momentary of peace just going through it. Not necessarily the answer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not an answer. Sometimes it just needs to go through. Sometimes it just needs to flow through and end. Right?
And I think depression is when you get stuck in that part.
Yes. Yes, that storm is constant. And you can't see you're afraid to go through it all the way, to let it in. So you sit in it, and that's the space that you're comfortable with. That sadness is a space that you're comfortable with. Yep. And there's no end to it. So you start to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into that storm.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. And a lot of times, like, therapy and talking to people, and sometimes therapy and talking to people helps you get through it, because there's no answer into therapy. It's only helping you get through, right? Sometimes it's being around people who love you, who might or might not understand, but then they're there no matter what. And that helps you just go through it. Even if it's momentarily, you just sit in a sunny space momentarily, helps.
And I think the way that this world is set up is that there isn't time for that.
That's right.
And so
That's right.
figuring out how to get to the next thing, get to the next thing, get through to the next thing is the way we cope until we can't.
Yeah. And a lot of times that depression is what the world wants you to be. Like, that's the popular thing, is to have these, be in these spaces and not understanding how to navigate your way through it and how to pull on, the universe and God to help you through those things. There's no talk of that. There's only talk of depression. Now take this medicine.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard hearing the first time that a medication was advertised on TV. It was like, what? Because that seemed like it was supposed to be such an intimate thing between you and your physician, and then suddenly it was a commercial.
Yeah.
And I think at that point I knew, like, we're being marketed this stuff. Like, this isn't legitimately for helping us. Like, this is a business.
That's right.
And what I think is really cool about you coming on and sharing your experiences, especially from part one of it, when you're talking about who you are as a mom and as a woman and all of these things, seeing the contrast of what you struggle with and what you've worked through is is a beautiful thing. It really is. And it's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to share, because you are a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human being. And you get in your head about stuff, but the world sees you as something completely different. What you mean to other people is something completely different. And just sharing your story and the things that you think about when nobody else is watching and listening helps us love you and see you more. And, I know you're afraid, I don't want to use that word. I know you may not necessarily want certain aspects of yourself to be seen by others, but they're really the things that I think are the most beautiful parts about you. And we're going to love you no matter whether you show them or not. I'm glad I personally have an opportunity to see them and to talk to you about them. And then I get to share mine with you as well. But, you just coming on here and speaking so freely and openly about this stuff is really important. Because, everybody ain't Beyonce. Everybody ain't Beyonce. They don't wake up like this. Right. It's a motherfucking, we put a bunch of shit together. We move a lot of parts and pieces around in order to just show up sometimes. Mm-hmm. And
sometimes that's all we got is being able to show up.
Yeah.
We ain't got the answers. We just show up. And there's beauty in that too. And there's a triumph in that. Yeah. Just being able to be human.
And I know that you said that you were concerned about the book, and how do you feel after talking about it in this way, over this period of time?
I think I do want it to be out there. I want to use it as a tool. Like, as soon as I was done with it, I felt like had I had this story when I needed it most, I would have had a space to feel like I'm not so alone. And I didn't know that that's what I was writing when I wrote it. I didn't even know any of the topics that came up were going to come up. But reading it back and thinking about the story, it's like this is for someone else. It's obviously for me, but not just me. And there's something that I can do with all of my gifts here. There's the knowledge of this disorder, there's the youth development background, there's the history of family, there's the love story, and there's the trick. And they tell a really powerful story that weaves who I am into this work. And I think it's worthy.
How are there, through your journey of learning about Trick and all of that, are there some resources that you're comfortable with sharing?
So there is a site, it's called Body Focused Repetitive Behaviors, and BFRBs is the short. And so there's TLC is a website or an organization. I think that they actually changed their name. But Googling it, they'll be one of the first to pop up. And so I've written with them. I've been at a couple of their conferences. I've done some of their, small group setting work. And I think they're the biggest one. But I think the main part is just telling our stories. Like, every time I felt good about who I am living with this, it's because I've shared it with someone, and unexpectedly there was a gift in that room for me and someone else.
Yep. Yeah, even like sometimes we don't know how it's going to help. Sometimes just being out there, you just never know what the impact, the level of impact it would have.
Absolutely.
It could just be the smallest, turning someone just to pivot them a little bit into a different direction is.
And it's like the way we started talking about the teachers. Like, you asked me, did I ever go back and say anything? Because Ms. Nolan would have never known.
Yeah.
you know, and so I hear later sometimes, like if I write a blog piece, someone will be like, you wrote that for me, you know, like, thank you. And had they not said that, you know, it's not the gratification, it's like, it's a reminder to keep going, keep pushing, keep working, keep doing it.
Yep.
Where can they get your book?
I don't know. When I get it off of my my Mac, I'll let you. Like I that's where I am right now. Like I sit with it. I can't edit another word. Like it needs to be out of my hands. I would actually really love to record it as an audio story.
So
I've been working on putting together a voiceover reel because I'd like to do voiceover work, and I keep having this thought, like, record this book. So
what the fuck are you waiting on?
I will challenge myself to record this book.
I'm a challenger. Are you challenging her?
I'm in. That'd be dope.
Because like,
there's an accountability here, and I've said this.
In
I said
spring.
this. That there's like, this is where I get stuck. Like I can have product all day, I can have a project all day, but then like, how do I do the next thing is where I can get stuck on it. And you know, I want to thank you guys for inviting me again. I know I'm the first woman to come on the show, and you know, I've talked about how important and powerful I think this is, and to have sisters and brothers in the same space, just sharing what the life experience is.
Commonalities.
Yeah, and for you and I, you know, there was a point where, you know, most folks that know us as brother and sister. Like that's just how we refer to each other. And it's always like, are you really?
Yeah, are you really like biological? Motherfuckers like actually want us to break it down.
Or they'll be like, oh, I can see the resemblance.
Yeah,
you know,
we
like.
just start laughing. And it's really, and just to be clear, it's really our way, because it really bothers us that people want to get, oh, did y'all used to fuck around? Or, and y'all don't fuck around? Like,
well, that's what I was going to say. We had to get through a period of like, every time I showed up to one of your DJ sets, people would be like, she's here again because she's stalker girl. And
it's
I'm
annoying.
Like, no, this is my brother.
Yeah.
And if they knew what we have been through and what we've bared witness to for each other's lives, it was never a conversation other than like, you show up for me like you've been there my whole life, and like that's a gift. And so like I've always had that. I've always had men in my life who there's never been any other interaction but like, I see you as my brother. And I shouldn't say but, because that I think we don't give enough credence to what a friend is.
Yeah.
You know, when people talk about putting somebody in the friend zone, you're not really putting them in the friend zone. You're done with them.
Yeah.
If I'm putting you in a friend zone, that's a compliment to our lives, right? Yeah. But we never even had to go there. We started off in a friend zone.
It didn't go. I mean, it was like it started exactly where it was supposed to be. There was never a push or a test of a boundary. Yeah. And it's like that with all of my genuine female friendships. Like there's, obviously ours is unique, but even with the others, it's like, oh no, I think I might try to go hit that. Let me see what I'm gonna try to do. It's never.
Like, and I think it starts off with what we were talking about earlier, like, I see you.
Right.
And from the moment we met, you know, it was like, I see you. And sometimes when you're at like base level, right? Like we were going through some stuff, showing up that way and not being with the facade of like, I'm good, I'm you know, I'm gonna cover up all and mask all so you can't really see me. We were really vulnerable up front, and it was like, this is what you get. Yeah. And you know, when Kismet aligns like that for humans in the world, there's so many gifts there. So thank you for being a gift in my life.
Yeah, likewise. And I thank you, man, for being a gift, bro.
That's dope.
Like even our friendship it didn't necessarily start like that. Dudes' friendships is so weird.
Yeah.
And you've had this, I mean, to compliment you, like you struggled with friendships for a while. Like that's a conversation we've had. Like just, so for, you know, for you and some other, the brothers in your life to be this consistent, like every time you have the brothers on the show, I would just be like, oh, there's his voice. Because like watching, you know, you want that for your brother. You want that for people that you love, for them to have that joy and bonding with folks like them, folks who grow them up.
Yep.
right? Folks
Yeah.
that you can see the best of yourselves in each other, and then pull up the parts that are like, we got to tune some things up here.
Yeah,
For sure.
I like that.
For sure.
Because we'll be like, you fucking up.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
tune some things up sounds
Yeah,
way
it sound
much better.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
receptive.
you can
Sounds
use that.
healthier.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
does.
think so.
But I think we're going to stick with fucking up.
Yeah, you fucking up.
Because
now.
we ain't healthy yet.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Where the gutter snipe at,
Right.
though?
Right. The gutter snipes, though. Where them gutter snipes, though? Hey, but I had a thought, though. What if you did your book as just a series of podcasts? You just read them,
On camera?
recorded them, or just
No, just audio.
Okay. Whew.
Just
Like
audio.
every week you release one, whatever.
Yeah. Can
I
you
like
teach me?
that.
Can you tell me how to do that?
No, we'll-
That's what I've been
so
thinking.
here's
So
what
that's
we'll
what I've
do.
been thinking.
We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
What?
We'll
That'd
do
be
it.
dope.
Do you know what you just signed up for? Are
I
you
know.
serious?
I'm in. That's dope.
So we'll do it. Let's do it.
Let's do
and
it.
that's a whole different thing. That's not even
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
because it's not really an audio book because it's not all at once.
That's
What
a
is
great
Something
idea.
that you build on like a it's a fucking
So
Remember
here's what we
those
gonna
like
do.
weekly, like by the
We gon-
fireside stories that you had to
Exactly.
wait for the next
We're
part
going.
of it?
We're going to.
Don't
So
watch it.
we could do it in pieces
Okay.
and then make it an audio book
Yeah.
because we're gonna record it.
Yeah,
we
we can
just
do it
gonna
right.
do it. Yeah.
we release it in weeks and pieces, and then once it's all done, now you can look at it's a fucking TV show, like a series.
See, that's a great idea, dude, because what I have found is the small steps eventually get somewhere, number one, and then you're constantly proving to yourself that you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna die. The world's not gonna end.
Yeah.
Even though I'm uncomfortable,
Yeah.
it's still progress and moving forward. And if it's something, we're gonna do it on a regular basis.
Yeah,
Do an hour a week.
Yeah.
And by that time, in a 8-week period or whatever it is,
Yeah.
we'll have 8 joints, and then we'll do yes.
that's a good idea, dog. That's a good idea, life. Thanks, y'all.
That's what I was going to say. It would have been a blessing coming from you because you have the book and you know me, but you don't.
No, but
And it's a testament to something else.
I recognize it. I see it. I mean, I see it.
appreciate you.
I see people wanting to, week after week, wanting to know what happens next in this story because it's intriguing. And I see people wanting to get through all the resolutions and get to the end and stay in tune about going back and referencing things from, you know what I'm saying? You could do it like, it'll be like a podcast, but it'll be week to week. So you have a description loosely about what's happening in this episode. And then you just, I mean, that's a dope idea.
And you got a pretty voice.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Didn't he just talk about my voice
He
before the
did.
camera came on?
I saw her Friday. Was out. She had on a goddamn bodysuit, and I'm like, she had a bodysuit on. I ain't
It
never
was a
seen this woman with tight.
What is happening? That's a
I
lot.
call
He's
it
so accustomed to like this is.
lot.
I'm gonna tell this story though before we finish. One day, he must have seen me and not recognized me from behind because he told somebody, and I turned around. I heard him cuss from across the room.
You harassing her?
Hell
You
no, that's
harassing
not
her?
her.
You didn't even know you was harassing her?
No, he was like he was like trying to holler, but he didn't know it was
Harassing.
me. Oh yeah, okay, that's what you.
It's not harassing.
Yeah, it
Come on,
is.
bro. You're not putting that out there. Just
No.
because you compliment a woman don't mean you harassing her. You can't
of course
contribute
you
to that.
No,
It
and
was-
like
no.
in a room, like I was over there.
And what'd he say? God damn, girl, look at that ass.
No, I don't even think I knew that part. When I turned around, I heard his reaction responding to the fact that
Oh,
it was me.
me.
Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I was
hell
talking
no.
to somebody else about, you see that over there? And I turned around. It was her. I was like,
was
God damn.
mad.
I had to go. I went to
I
church.
had a regular dress on. I'm curvier than most know because I never show it, and I happened to show it that day. That's all.
Made me real
How did we even
uncomfortable.
get here? We were talking about my voice.
Brother and sister, that's you need to go to church, dog.
One more. We're gonna let you go after this. So me and a mutual friend of ours were going to this club, and she was meeting us there.
Telling the story.
You gotta tell it, especially on the camera. So we're pulling up to Live. We're going to Live.
Yeah.
And there's this car in front of us. You know where you valet in
Yeah.
that parking lot?
Yeah.
I'm not valet, where you park in that parking lot?
Yeah.
There's a car in front of us. And we're like, who? And it's like a minivan.
Yeah.
And it's got like a bike rack on the back.
Mind you, we're on the phone, and I'm telling you, I'm here.
Right. All of these bikes on the back. Like, it's like a fucking family vehicle that's going to the club, right?
Right.
So me and my homeboy sitting there looking, and we were like, whose car is that? It was Eshe's car with all the minivan,
Right.
with all
The
of
bikes.
these bike racks. We took
had
the bikes
the
off
kids
the
were
bike
little,
rack,
like they're
dog. We
tall-
riding them
Little
around.
toddler bike.
So you went to the club with the bike?
We were going to like somebody was performing that night, but yeah,
What's the
I
club?
also valeted everybody. I pulled up in the minivan in
Dog.
the front of and there was like 8 of us in there, and they were like, "Are you about to?" And I was like, "Beep," and the
She
door
opened
opened.
the doors open because we were trying to answer because we parked down the block.
I am a mother first. That's all.
That's fine.
That's all that
You
needs to
kids
be
have
said.
fun.
Yep.
That's funny.
Stepped out, Gucci flip flops.
The point was, thank you.
We're going to do this. Stay tuned, internets.
Love you, sis.
I love you more.
Thank you.
Y'all, man. This is good shit, man.
This is great.
Love you, bro. Thank you
Lex.
for the
Thank
time.
you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. Peace.
Peace.